Welcome to the Weekly Defence Podcast, the show about defence procurement and military technology. We're brought to you in partnership with our sponsor Namo, and I'm your host, Beth Mondrell. On the show this week, we speak to Mark Bellman, VP of Global Growth at In Situ, and Deputy Editor Tim Martin reports on all the activity from this week's Dubai Airshow. But first, our weekly news roundup, and I'm joined once again by Richard Thomas.
Hi, Beth.
So, Rich, let's look at some kind of businessy news in the defence realm to start with the ongoing process for the acquisition of the UK defence company Cobham. So this week, as that kind of acquisition process continues, we've heard that Advent International has offered up solutions to what the UK government said was national security concerns that they had identified regarding the acquisition. So this is kind of because Advent International is a US private equity firm, and I think the UK government felt that some of the things that Cobham do for the UK's defence could be jeopardised because of this acquisition. But release from the UK government says that the business secretary has said she's consulted on steps to address the steps that have been offered up to address these concerns. So it kind of looks like this acquisition is now on its way to going forward.
It's an interesting one. We report on purchases or acquisitions by companies, usually through other defence firms, mergers and such forth. But this is, as you say, a little bit unique in it. It's a private equity firm looking to purchase a defence company. Whether it wants to move into the defence sector, I don't know. The Cobham share price on the announcement this week that the business secretary is minded to approve jumped a little bit, went up about six points or so. The share price is obviously at a high at the back end of this year following the announcement earlier this year about the intention by Advent to purchase Cobham. So it's an interesting one. Yeah,
and I think Cobham is quite an interesting company as well. The UK is not its sole customer by any means, although it is a UK-based company, and it's not like the some of the big defence primes that have a big platform that they push and market and develop. Instead, they're kind of more of a systems integrator. I mean, they supply oxygen systems for the TX, which is the fighter trainer aircraft. They do air-to-air refueling technologies. It's more of the subsystems than just one big platform like BAE Systems and Lockheed Martin when you think of that. So an interesting one to continue to follow, but it seems from this announcement that acquisition will be going forward. Rich, though, on to the maritime side of things. We're going to touch on the Middle East first with a bit of the UK in there as well.
Okay, well, I've got two topics I come back to often on the podcast here. We can go Middle East first. So earlier this month, the UK government released a whole swathe of papers detailing its contributions to the Conflict Stability and Security Fund. These are sort of programs that the UK government uses to assist and develop countries around the world where it feels it has interests. Digging into these documents, I looked at the Middle East specifically because, of course, I quite like the region, and just drew out some of the facts and figures regarding Jordan and Lebanon, both very important countries to the UK. The former is obviously a key UK ally in the region, and the latter is of fairly significant strategic interest given the number of countries that have concerns in Beirut. We're talking Iran, and through its proxy Hezbollah as well. So anyway, the funds, as I said, lead to the sustainment of a number of programs. The Jordanian funds for FY 1920 amounted to not a huge amount of money. We're talking sort of low single-figure £1 million. But these are programs to sort of modernise the Jordanian armed forces, improve training for its quick reaction force, which is increasing in size from a battalion to a brigade. And on the Lebanon side, this is, again, just to improve the capability or training of its armed forces and ability to more effectively secure its borders.
So is there like a maritime element at all to this funding? Obviously, Jordan's not got a huge coastline, but
no. So
Lebanon is
well. So
more strategically.
there wasn't an awful lot in the way of maritime commitments from the UK for Middle Eastern countries. I did find an interesting program for UK support in Yemen. The UK has funded since 2015 a maritime security advisor for Yemen. This official is based in Saudi Arabia, which is kind of pertinent given the difficulties that stretch of coastline in and around Yemen is having this year. I mean, we've had another incident in the Red Sea this week. In fact, of course, the one of the factions involved in the Yemeni conflict, the Houthis, have hijacked, seized 3 vessels that were transiting the area, one of which is Saudi flagged. The other 2, though, were Korean-owned ships. The Houthis have said that they would release the 2 Korean-owned ships if the company can prove, in fact, that they do own them, and presumably the 2 Korean nationals being held as well.
So a lot going on in that region.
A lot going on in the Middle East.
Some money being allocated to supporting it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these funds relate to FY 1920. Decision has yet made for FY 2021. That'll take place, or that decision will be made towards the very back end of the year, given the election. A quick piece of news from the UK. Finally, we can say that the contract for the Type 31 has been signed, sealed, and delivered. MOD and Babcock are happy for it to go ahead. So that's a build of 5 hulls for 1.25 billion quid.
And that's because I saw like this announcement online, and like some people were saying, "Oh, why is it being announced again?" When it was announced at DSEI, but the DSEI announcement was just the preferred bidder.
Exactly that. Yeah, they obviously liked what they saw with Babcock, and they've spent the past couple of months or so finalising the details, and they have done so. So it's just a case of Babcock getting down to the nitty gritty of building these platforms and delivering them.
So other than like confirming kind of like the value, which we already knew because that was like set out really early on by the UK government, do we know anything about like where the build is going to happen, first steel cut maybe, or is it too early for that kind of thing?
We know a little bit. Babcock has said that the 5 frigates will be assembled in Rosyth, which could mean they might just build them there. Or if there's a block build using other UK shipyards, then they could ship them to Rosyth for assembly. Yet to find out. The MOD expects the first in class to be in the water by 2023, which is also the out-of-service date for HMS Argyle. So that's effectively going to mean that the UK will have a drop in the number of available surface warships, because there's one thing having a ship in the water and another thing having it commissioned in service. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see how quickly they can...
That's a tight time frame.
I guess that was the whole point of that programme, though, wasn't it? The tight time frame, tight budget, get it done. So we'll see the outcome of that in the coming months, years. Back on dry land, though. A couple of things from the land domain that I'd like to highlight. So our Asia Pacific editor, Gordon Arthur, has been in Bangkok this week at DNS Bangkok, and he's covered loads of land vehicles that have been on show at the event. But I just wanted to pick up on one kind of because it's a company that I recently spent a couple of days with, and that is Mercedes-Benz special trucks. So one of their most well-known platforms is the Unimog 4x4, which has been used a lot in Asia Pacific, but there's not really been much recent sales success in the region. However, the company did display the U4000 Unimog at Defence and Security Bangkok with plans to take the vehicle to various demonstrations to different militaries throughout the world. So kind of a bit of a like relaunch of the vehicle to kind of capitalize on sales opportunities in the region. It offers like different versions of the truck, obviously. And I think it's kind of relating back to what I learned when I was with the company. They also launched the next generation Zetros. Now, the Zetros is a larger special logistics vehicle, which can be used for military applications as well as like commercial mining and stuff like that. But it's like the emphasis is that it is a special truck. It's not just like one you would see on the highway. But yeah, so that's been relaunched after production of the previous variants was kind of discontinued in the 1990s. But when I was sat with the company in Germany, they really did emphasize their look into the military vehicles market, which is projected to grow substantially in terms of demand over the next few years. So you can see the company's making a real effort, not just in Europe, not just in Asia, but globally, to kind of relaunch some of its products, kind of make people aware, like, yeah, we're still here, we're still making military vehicles. Even though some of them have been staples for quite a long time, I think they kind of want to show that it's not all old kit as well.
It's always good to remind people what you do and what you know. That's the Unimog is a name obviously from the 90s, one that I've known for obviously for.
I think most people have, yeah.
Yeah, so it's as I say, it's useful for Mercedes-Benz to kind of remind people.
Yeah, I think one other thing they have launched as well, which was in Germany when I was with them, was a new chassis which can be used for special operations. So that's a 9.5 ton chassis, which kind of goes in their portfolio. That also includes a 14.5 ton and a 20 ton special chassis. So they're kind of growing their product portfolio, not too much, but like enough to meet newer demands, not just the demands of the 90s, early 2000s.
Not just luxury cars then, is it?
Not just luxury cars. They do have some nice ones, I'm sure. And then finally, talk about some robotic stuff. So the US Army has got loads of unmanned ground vehicle robotic programs on the go at the moment. You've got the SMET one. They've all got acronyms that you need to try and like remember.
Yeah.
So they've got SMET, MTRS Increment 2. They've got the robotic combat vehicle, which falls under the next generation combat vehicle program. But they've also got for ground troops the Common Robotic System, individual and heavy. So the latest news is that the heavy version of the Common Robotic System, they've awarded a contract for that to Endeavour Robotics, which now falls under FLIR after being acquired by the company. So this contract covers a 5-year production and is worth up to $109 million. And it's for the Cobra UGV, which is has a lift capability of about 150 kilograms, and it's got one of those like manipulator arms that can reach over 11 feet. So yeah, this is the heavy one. What I think is quite interesting about this is like it's the Common Robotic System Heavy, the individual one, which was awarded earlier this year to Kinetic North America. So you've got 2 robots, 2 different suppliers, and the individual one, Endeavour Robotics did actually compete for that one as well, but with their Scorpion UGV, and with the heavy, Kinetic competed for that one. So you've got 2 programs, 2 different suppliers, both competed for each, and they've both been awarded one. So good
under
news
a Common Robotic System program. Interesting.
Yeah. So good news for both companies to get a slice of the pie. I'm sure they both would have liked to have the entire
Yeah, no doubt.
Pie. But yeah, it's a nice end to that chapter because now it'll just be going forward with production, like testing before it goes into service and being equipped throughout the US Army. So,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And Beth, this is the last time you're going to be on the podcast, right?
Yeah, so as of next week, I think the listeners will be hearing a different voice as the host, as I will be off to explore pastures new and tackle a new industry after spending the last 6.5 covering defence.
6.5 years covering defence. All right, well, good luck with that.
Yeah. So, yeah, for the last time from me anyway, if you do want to check out these stories that we've covered in the news round this week, check out the Shephard Media website, or links will be included in the show notes. Coming up on the podcast, we speak to Mark Baumann, VP of Global Growth at In Situ. But first, I chat to Tim Martin about all the news from the Dubai Airshow. As part of Shephard Media's business information offerings, we now offer a series of market forecasts which enable you to understand both the broader competitive landscape and the finer detail of various sectors of the defence industry. Each market forecast identifies the demand for platforms and equipment, as well as analysing programmes in each defence sector, broken down by region from North America to Asia Pacific. To date, we have produced market forecasts on the armoured vehicles market, naval vessels market, and we have just released our military unmanned systems market forecast. Soon, we will release our 10-year forecast on the military aircraft market, and later in the year, we will look at the artillery and air defence market. To find out more about our market forecast, please email subs@shephardmedia.com or visit the Shephard Media website. Tim, you spent the past week at the Dubai Airshow filing loads of news from the event, but what really caught your eye?
Yes, thanks, Beth. I did indeed. So I was in fairly warmer climes compared to London, which was quite nice. But yeah, in terms of the news, I think what was most significant in terms of contract announcements certainly was that the UAE Air Force is moving forward with, or rather, technically speaking, in the final stages of signing on for an additional pair of Saab GlobalEye airborne early warning and control aircraft, and 3 more A330 MRTT platforms from Airbus. So that'll take their incoming fleet of GlobalEyes to 5, and the MRTT fleet will move from 3 to 6.
So I know, I'm sure you asked loads of questions at these briefings. So in terms of contract specifics, what do we know at this stage regarding both of those deals, the GlobalEye and the MRTT?
Yeah, so because it was breaking news, it was announced at a press conference. The trade media press pack were, of course, keen to ask as many questions as they could and kind of look into the main details of the contracts. But unfortunately, not as much detail as we didn't get as much detail as we would have liked, beyond the fact that the GlobalEye deal is going to be worth 1.8 billion. The UAE Air Force kind of mentioned when asked that the delivery time frame, they couldn't disclose that. But I would say from the manufacturer's perspective, from Saab's perspective, they're running through the final stages of the test program, which is said to be happening in line with company expectations. So they've had 3 test aircraft airborne, and completed a whole host of flight test evaluations, and completed envelope expansion in the summer of 2019, for example, and then 2 of the other aircraft are currently being used for systems verification. Then if we look at the MRTT deal, easy for me to say, there was next to nothing, I suppose, of significance announced from a contract value. That's not being disclosed, and deliveries, little was said of that. Also, I think perhaps that's unsurprising, maybe given the geopolitical and security tensions in the Middle East region.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mention about the GlobalEye and kind of that program going forward? Because it was, I believe, like February last year, so 2018, when Saab did their like big rollout of the first aircraft for the UAE at its site in Linköping in Sweden. And obviously since then, flights have been going on, and we've seen like on social media and through press releases that program's been going forward quite well. A shame that...
Yeah, probably suppose mentioning on that front as well that Saab also said that their offer for the Finland HX fighter program, where they're offering Gripens, they've also put in 2 GlobalEyes. Now, that's not news. Yeah. They announced that previously, but because there was an RFP, a revised an RFQ, rather, request for a quotation from Finland earlier this month, they said that they could confirm that, yes, they're still sticking to having 2 GlobalEyes in that offer. And it's important because Finland are asking industry to make improved offers for this RFQ.
Yeah, I'd imagine now there's like going to be quite a lot of people that are looking at the GlobalEye quite closely. But going back to obviously Dubai Airshow, obviously unmanned vehicles are always a big thing at these air shows nowadays. So was there anything in the way of news from the UAE regarding unmanned aviation?
Yeah, sadly, nothing that was part of formal announcements, no. But I did try to get to the bottom of whether the UAE MOD has China's Winglong 2 UCAVs within its arsenal, because defence analysts believe that to be the case. And those sources also think that UAE-owned Winglongs have been procured by the Libyan National Army in its civil war fight and continued power struggle for the country's capital, Tripoli.
So what would that mean if that is like true, and what response did you manage to get from the Air Force?
Yeah, so and if it is true that the Winglongs from the UAE have reached Libya, the country would be in contravention of the long-standing UAN arms embargo on Libya, which, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, were originally imposed because of human rights abuses by the Libyan government. So we can't forget that US-made UCAVs as well to the ME region are banned under international export control regulations. But to the second part of the question, a UAE MOD official told me that he could not confirm if the Winglong has been bought, but said that there is no market from which the UAE has an evaluation team to determine future procurements.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. And also, like, as you mentioned, there's like the US ban on selling unmanned aircraft like this to the Middle East region, which I know like the Trump administration is trying to like change a little bit. So it's very topical, something to continue to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, definitely.
And on the helicopter or tilt rotor even side of things, you had like kind of an interesting one on tilt rotors to the UAE. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so if we rewind back to the 2015 edition of the Dubai Air Show, there was an MOU signed between UAE's Joint Aviation Command and AgustaWestland, as Leonardo was then, for 3 of the OEMs in development, AW609 aircraft, and there was also an option for a further 3. At that time, I think it's also important to mention that delivery was slated for 2019.
Yeah, so we didn't have like a big delivery announcement at Dubai Air Show, and obviously 2019, we've only got 6 weeks left, so I sense this hasn't quite gone to plan.
You would be absolutely correct to surmise that, Beth. It appears that not all is well with the program. The latest I managed to gather is that issues of customer confidentiality are preventing Leonardo from disclosing the current status of the deal. And when I asked the company's CEO, Alessandro Profumo, if he could provide further details, he said that the UAE is still an important market for the AW609, but didn't, and maybe understandably given the confidentiality context, refer to the Joint Aviation Command deal directly. In any case, I think it should be pointed out that certification complications have put pay to Leonardo delivering any AW609s in 2019, and with first handover to customers expected at the end of 2020 at the earliest. So on that front, Profumo added that we're on time, but the FAA is changing their requirements, not because of our aircraft, but because of other cases.
Well, for all our listeners, you can find all of Tim's stories and everything we've discussed on the podcast today at the Shephard Media website. But thanks for that, Tim, and we'll speak to you again on the podcast soon.
Yep, thanks so much, Bev.
While the podcast is a newer venture for Shephard Media, we've actually been in the defence publishing business for almost 40 years and have built up a strong and loyal audience base. Our content is trusted and consumed by key decision makers through Shephard Media's multiple channels. One benefit of having such a dedicated audience base is our ability to offer a comprehensive range of message delivery options to our advertisers. From brand awareness campaigns across a combination of print and digital media, through targeted email campaigns or show dailies, to a multitude of online opportunities, or even advertising opportunities within the podcast itself. If you'd like to know more, please visit shepherdmedia.com/advertising.
I'm Shephard Media's Deputy R Editor, Tim Martin, and I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Mark Baumann, VP of Global Growth for In Situ. And Mark, we're going to be discussing Scan Eagle 1 and 2, which of course is a very long-running programme for In Situ. It's almost 15 years old if we start from when the US had it operational. How would you categorise the success of the programme itself? Or what would you put it down to, rather?
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing platform and continues to serve many of our customers worldwide. As you've reported in the past, we have well over 1.2 million operational flying hours, largely based on the Scan Eagle platform. We continue to evolve that platform, even though its outer mold lines haven't changed over the past 15 years. A tremendous amount of innovation has gone into that platform, whether it's through new sensors and payloads, such as the game-changing hood tech sensor that's EO900 or EO950, to some of the other more advanced payloads that we provide our U.S. government and international allies. It's truly a game-changing capability, and we will continue to evolve that platform as it moves on to the Scan Eagle 2 platform, which gets us onto what we call a family of systems offering for our customers, and we'll continue to innovate like we always do at In Situ.
And as we're talking at the Dubai Airshow, how would you categorise the small TUAS market across the Middle East?
Sure. Well, the small tactical UAS market continues to grow, almost surprisingly so. But when you look at the market outlook and where customers have the most unique demands, it's really keeping their armed forces safe and ensuring countries comply with the agreements that are in place. And they need flying binoculars, for lack of a better term, in order to do that. And Scan Eagle, as well as Scan Eagle 3 and Integrator, provide a reliable, safe, and scalable platform for our customers to use.
And from a customer's perspective, coalition forces have been using Scan Eagle during operations in the Middle East for an extensive period of time. What's kind of been fed back from the customers during the course of those events?
Sure. Well, our data feeds go to the highest levels of leadership in many different governments for decision-making superiority. And we're very proud to continue to offer that capability to U.S. government as well as international leaders globally. Specifically in the Middle East, some of the feedback that we've gotten is that our vision system continues to be unparalleled in the market. And we're very proud to continue to offer that. And it will continue to improve as we make additional sensor upgrades and new enhancements with our partners like Hood Tech Vision to make those capabilities available to our customers.
Okay, and you mentioned some of the capabilities, I guess, with ISR in particular. Would you foresee any size, weight, and power changes potentially to the system? Given that it's it's fairly old if you track its genesis back, right across to 2004, 2005.
Sure. Well, I would say, as I mentioned before, the outer mold line of ScanEagle hasn't changed, but the internal capabilities that are offered with that platform are tremendously different than what they were 15 years ago. We've seen the application of Moore's Law in all of our systems to include brand new avionics and moving ScanEagle onto a common ground control station that's used for ScanEagle 3 as well as Integrator. So now that offers customers the ability to train on a single system and then be able to choose what airframe is best for their mission, whether it's ScanEagle, ScanEagle 3, or Integrator, and be able to leverage the investment of the ground control station as well as the launch and recovery systems that have made In Situ what it is today.
Okay, and just from a listener's perspective, so they can get a sense of this, I mean, roughly how many people does it take to operate the system, when it's forward deployed? Because we're talking ground station, image specialists,
Sure.
Beyond that.
Yeah, so our core offering is to operate a typical 300-hour site. It's anywhere between 5 and 6 operators. And we can sustain that almost indefinitely with that amount of operators. It does not take a lot of people to operate this. It's highly autonomous and always has been. And as we move the system onto the new ground control station, we're only increasing the level of autonomy. As you know, we have a presence in the United Kingdom out of Oxford, and we have specialists there that focus on machine learning and autonomy to integrate that into the core system. So we're going to see even more so our systems be able to operate either multi-systems on a ground control station or being able to conduct multiple missions with the same amount of personnel on the ground.
Okay, and I understand in the field you can reconfigure the midwave IR imager to kind of custom communications relay. Can you kind of speak to what benefit that brings for troops?
Sure. We've seen an uptick of comm relay payloads or communication activities or payloads integrated to both ScanEagle and Integrator. And what that allows is for beyond horizon communications to troops on the ground and or other air-to-air communications as well. So we're extremely proud to be able to rapidly integrate these types of technologies into our platforms. We have over 180 platform and payload partners that we leverage worldwide. And they're able to integrate those capabilities rapidly into our platforms and get those into the hands of the warfighters globally.
Okay, and we've seen, I suppose, not necessarily obviously with in situ platforms, but earlier in the year there was kind of a high-profile incident of a Global Hawk being shot down. I just wanted your perspective on whether you think there's kind of increased protection might be needed for unmanned systems more generally.
Sure. I think that's absolutely that incident was affected the larger scale platforms. We haven't had to experience any of that to date. And while we maintain the robustness of the platform and continue to improve the robustness of the platform, it really doesn't, it's not a concern for us right now.
Okay, and maybe if we step away from ScanEagle 1 and 2 in particular and look at the Marine Corps' RQ-21A, because you have in process the extended range version, can you kind of give us a flavour of what's happening on that front?
Yeah, absolutely. We continue to be very proud and humbled by our partnership with the U.S. Marine Corps. They continue to deploy our systems on their Marine Expeditionary units, and those feeds are hitting the highest levels of leadership. With that, I do need to strike a chord that the RQ-21 system is now at the highest readiness rate of any other Marine Corps aviation system in the inventory. A truly tremendous achievement for the Marine Corps, as they rapidly fielded this capability across the Marine Expeditionary Units, but also a testament to our employees back at In Situ and their ability to continue to produce sparing and improve turnaround times on repairs, and continue to keep that system up and flying and at high readiness rates for the Marine Corps.
Okay, and just to give a quick reference, the ER version, what does that put the extended range out to?
Yeah. So integrator extended range or blackjack extended range, depending on the variant that we apply this technology to, extends the range out to up to 500 nautical miles. And what we advertise is 300 nautical miles gets you 6 hours time on station, and 200 nautical miles out gets you 10 hours time on station. A truly game-changing capability for the small tactical UAS, and it really provides, with our vision systems included, a Group 4 capability at a Group 3 footprint and price tag.
Okay, and for the ER, is there a timeline for when the USMC will put it into operation IOC?
Yeah, we're still working with the Marine Corps specifically on how we're going to cut that capability into the program of record. I would defer you to Marine Corps leadership and U.S. government leadership as to the timelines there. But on the commercial side, or on the defense commercial side, DCS sales, we're excited to offer integrator extended range to all of our international partners. And we see that being a very key component to our 2020 and beyond plan.
Okay, and would you foresee that, I guess, like a lot of these programs where international customers look to America to kind of mature the system first, and perhaps, now I know you've said, it's off the shelf available, but I suppose, would there be any technology maturation maybe that other end users would kind of wait and hold out, or what's your sense, I guess, generally from international customers?
Yeah, I don't see that being the case with our international customers, and that's because of the robustness of the core platform itself. The engine has gone through its maturation process. We're well above 10,000 hours, which is the typical knee in the curve, where you see the reliability improvements really kick in. We're seeing a highly reliable system in the program of record with the United States Marine Corps, and that's the core of the system that we would employ in the integrator ER environment as well. So technology maturity is really a new C2 link, and that's it. And it's a proven one at that. So I see the integration of those two capabilities coming together, quickly moving to market, and being relevant for especially the Middle East customers here.
And so is there, at this stage, interest from Middle Eastern customers at this stage?
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing a demand signal for integrator or blackjack ER globally. Whether it's in the PACOM environment, where, of course, distances are extremely important, to the Middle East, where extending the range of their ISR capability is important as well. The U.S. government has expressed interest not just through the program of record, but through other channels as well. And we look forward to serving those needs in the near future.
Okay, and just before wrapping up then, is there anything else that you'd like to kind of flag or mention, whether that's on the blackjack side or on Scan Eagle 1 and 2, or anything else that in situ, you want to maybe disclose?
Yeah, well, we're just extremely proud and excited by not just the opportunities for in situ here in the region, but also as we partner with our parent company Boeing, to provide true autonomous systems capability to our customers. We're excited to be a part of that family and to be able to drive autonomous systems and capabilities to our customers. I look forward to delivering those systems in the very near future.
Okay, Mark, well, we look forward to hearing more about those developments as they unfold. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Tim. Appreciate it.
This episode of the Weekly Defence Podcast was brought to you in partnership with our sponsor, Nammo. As always, a big thanks to everyone who gave their time to be part of this week's episode. And for our listeners, make sure you like and subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, and tell a friend or colleague about the podcast. Until next week, thanks for listening.